Hi guys, good evening and welcome back to my magical world. It's me, Frostbite Goddess, your favorite celebrity here in the Philippines. Medyo, um, I'm trying to film consistently and kahapon nag-flicker yung vlog natin. So, I'm trying to fix it and so far, naayos ko naman siya. So, today is May 5, 2025. It's the birthday of my pamangkin. So, yan. Happy birthday, Emery. You know that we love you, right? So, yan. Of my niece. So, it's 11:49 in the evening right now. I'll continue reading for you later, guys. Just ayusin ko lang. So, take a deep breath and okay, I'll be back in a bit. May pinaayos lang ako. Hello guys, so this is just, a continuation of the last time that I wasn't able to finish. So, para let's finish this and later I'll make kwento a bit. Kung if there is something relevant, nothing. It's just me, myself, and I, and you, and I, guys. All of you guys. Globally speaking. So, inspired by the discovery, Rabakandran decided to conduct an experiment that was astonishing for its simplicity. He brought into his office a young man who, because of a recent car accident, had had his left arm amputated from just above the elbow and was now experiencing considerable sensation in his phantom limb. Using a cotton swab, Ramachandran proceeded to touch the man's legs and stomach. He reported completely normal sensations, but when Ramachandran swabbed a particular part of his cheek, the man experienced a sensation both in the cheek and in the thumb of his phantom hand. Moving around the face with the Q-tip, Ramachandran found other areas corresponding to other parts of the missing hand. The results were remarkably similar to those of Pond's experiment. The implications of these simple tests were profound. It had been largely assumed in neuroscience that the connections in the brain are hardwired at birth or in the earliest years and are essentially permanent. The results of these experiments contradicted this assumption. In this case, after a traumatic accident, it appeared that the brain had altered itself in a dramatic fashion, creating the whole new networks of connections in a relatively short amount of time. This meant that the human brain is potentially far more plastic than had been imagined. In this case, the brain had altered itself in an odd and seemingly inexplicable way. But what is this power to alter itself could be harnessed for positive therapeutic uses. Based on this experiment, Ramachandran decided to shift fields, moving into the neuroscience department at UCSD and devoting his time and research to anomalous neurological disorders. He decided to take his phantom limb experiment a further step. Many patients with a severe limb experience an odd kind of paralysis that is highly painful. They feel the phantom limb, they want to move it but cannot, and they feel a cramping and an excruciating ache. Ramachandran speculated that before the limb had been amputated, the brain had learned to experience the arm or leg as paralyzed, and once it had been amputated, it continued to feel it that way. Would it be possible, considering the plasticity of the brain, to unlearn this paralysis? Remember, guys, when you get used to something and you think it's normal, for example, the corruption, So we like since our government or they usually don't act or they don't really care about the education here in the Philippines, because education is knowledge, and you know that knowledge is power, right? So they kind of like put a certain population of people to just learn, you know, something, just learn something, but not really to have the IQ to compete, to comprehend, and you know, to know what is actually the issues that we are facing here in the Philippines. You know the thing, guys. So ayoko nang mag-over-explain. I don't wanna go to that thing. Basta, you should know that if you are living here, you really need to do a lot of digging, a lot of unlearning, and learning what is really the truth. Kasi, believe me, poverty usually namamana siya, napapamana siya, unknowingly, unconsciously, consciously and unconsciously, their offspring. So alam mo yung sobrang yaman talaga ng Pilipinas eh. 'Di ba? Aso nga lang, you know, there are the greed and the power that, you know, sobrang maraming nasisilaw sa ganun. Of course, you can do anything when you have power, di ba? So, a lot of it, kaso, they've abused it, and they're you know, using it for their personal gains and for their businesses. Ang daming bilyonaryo dito, guys. So, ayan. And so, we came up with yet another incredibly simple experiment to test out his idea. Using a mirror that he had in his office, he proceeded to construct his own apparatus. He took a cardboard box with the lid removed and made 2 armholes in the front of the box. He then positioned the upright mirror inside of it. Patients were instructed to place their good arm through one hole in their severed arm, right up to the other hole. They were to maneuver the mirror until the image of their good arm was seen in the position where their other arm should be. In moving their good arm and seeing it moved in the position of the severed one, almost instantly these patients experienced an alleviation of the feeling of paralysis. Most of the patients who took the box home with them, practiced with it, were able to unlearn the paralysis, much to their relief. Sometimes, guys, I'm saying, but it's just an analogy. And if you are smart enough, which I know you are, kasi you happen to found my channel, and there's a lot of YouTubers, diba? And you happen to bump here. You belong here. So once again, the meaning of this discovery was profound. Not only was the brain was plastic, but the senses were also much more interconnected than previously imagined. The brain did not consist of modules for each sense. Instead, they overlap. In this case, pure visual stimuli had altered the sense of touch and sensation. But beyond that, this experiment also called into question the whole notion of pain. Pain, it seemed, was a kind of opinion the body rendered on what it was experiencing on its own health. This opinion could be tricked or manipulated, as the mirror experiment had shown. In further experiments, Ramakanjan arranged it so that patients would see a student's arm instead of their own, superimposed over the phantom limb. They would not be aware that this had been done, and when the student moved the arm, they experienced the same relief from paralysis. It was merely the sight of the movement that created the effect. This made the sensation of pain seem increasingly more subjective and subject to alteration. Yan. Okay lang kayo, guys. So, over the ensuing years, Ramachandran would perfect this creative style of investigation into an art, transforming himself into one of the leading neuroscientists in the world. He developed certain guidelines for his strategy. He would look for any evidence of anomalies in neuroscience or in related fields, ones that brought up questions that had the potential to challenge conventional wisdom. His criteria were that he had to be able to show it was a real phenomenon. So that it could be explained in terms of current science and that it had important implications stretching beyond the confines of his own field. If others were ignoring it because it seemed too weird, so much the better, he would have the research field all to himself. Furthermore, he looked for ideas that he could verify through simple experiments. No Furthermore, he looked for ideas that he could verify through simple experiments, no heavy or expensive equipment. He had noticed that those who got large grants for their research, which would include all of the technological gadgetry that went with it, would become embroiled in political games in order to justify the money being spent on them. They would rely on good technology instead of on their own thinking. And they would become conservative, not wanting to rock the boat with their conclusions. He preferred to do his work with cotton swabs and mirrors and by engaging in detailed conversations with his patients. So, for instance, he became intrigued by the neurological disorder known as apotemnophilia, the desire of perfectly healthy people to have a limb amputated, with many of them actually going through with the surgery. So, cut na natin guys. It's a bit long and I'm still going to proceed to another studio. Just kidding guys. So, yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for helping me make this world a better place for all of us and for the future generation. I'm gonna see you again later.